It's Goht. I'm just branching off my last video to say that Goht is the best boss in this game. Feel free to save yourself the time, go caroling, make some Christmas cookies, take a dump in a box and ship it to Stevens & Goht as a Christmas present. You can use your time as you please. When I concluded the Snowhead Temple video, I realized that Goht was the best dungeon boss in this game. Like, I was the person in front of you taking an hour to make a right on red, just extremely indecisive on how I felt about that dungeon. But I did realize the best boss in the game was Goht when making this. Now, for the record, I'm looking at the 4 dungeon bosses. No mini bosses like the Gecko, the Amanda Bynes' current look, and Majora's Mask will not be included. I will not analyze the anorexic demon that makes you question the E rating even more than Dead Hand did. But what I can do explain is why the 3 other Majora's Mask bosses are not my favorite and why Goht is. Like any video like this, it's just my opinion on the topic and not the official answer. You may have another favorite boss, and you know what? All the power to you. If you do complain about my video, I already do have my gift ready to ship to Steven. I can send it your way if you prefer. So yes, don't make a stink about my answer. And enjoy another Win a Month video. Let's go. Do you remember that kid in school who would always keep twitching when standing or sitting? That's Adola. Or I think that's how you pronounce his name. He is the boss of the first temple, the Woodfall Temple, and prances around like a flamboyant Native American. Not sure if I can use those terms like that anymore, but it's a little too late now. He isn't hard to beat. You stun him with your bow, or actually you can just slash his knees with your sword. You really don't need the dungeon item, which is kind of actually a unique thing to this game. He has many eye-catching attacks, like the Fire Circle of Doom, the Insect Trick, or just kind of boogie and prancing around. He also can like spin around with the sword and stuff, which based on his size and the size of the sword, it should be a lot more deadly. But as you can see here, which for the record I'm a little farther in the game than you're supposed to be, I have like the reinforced hearts, they don't really do any damage. Maybe I'd rank this like the second favorite boss in this game, but there just isn't that much substance to it. It's not really much of a fight. It's a pushover first boss. Not Goma level pushover, but it's still too easy to beat. And I can't say I'm too happy with my reward either, because he gets Snooky for beating this boss. Which I get makes sense, you can shove her in a bottle, but it still doesn't, not that happy about the reward. I really don't like this guy. The boss of the Great Bay Temple is Goht, the masked oversized fish who isn't a deep-throating Link. When I played this as a kid, I would get stuck on this boss a lot. Goht is not easy, especially since you have to get close to hit him and he can gobble you up without much issue. It almost feels like you glitch into its mouth too. The controls for Zora Link aren't really that sharp enough to make the boss feel fair. The dead fish spawns are also assholes. You are likely to have 5 hearts for this battle if you haven't gotten any heart pieces yet, so unless you have a bunch of fairies, you're probably screwed. And you don't use the ice arrows at all. Like sure, you use the Zora's Mask, which makes sense, you got in the Great Bay Area, but the dungeon item's not used at all. I just don't like this fight, I really don't. The last of the bosses is Twinmold, the boss of the well-regarded Stone Tower Temple. I think there could be a lot to this fight, but it results in what is quite a boring battle. See, first you take your Viagra, you get to slashing the blue one, and red one. It does not last more than 4 hours, in fact, it actually probably lasts like a minute or so, as I usually do. You slash the ends and the fronts and dodge until it's down. And no, Nintendo, I don't need the hint, I'm doing just fine, thank you very much. Well, just fine. That's really all there is to the fight. It's not as complex or dynamic as many of the other Zelda bosses. It continues to use the theme of not really using the items from that level. Sure, you do get the Giant's Mask in the temple, but it's at the very end and almost feels forced to get it. The fight should be a lot more exciting with the design and concept, but just doesn't have the substance to meet that goal. So it seems Goht wins by default. Only 4 bosses doesn't provide much competition, and the other bosses have some questions to them. But Goht is a good fight based on its fun, yet challenging gameplay. Let me break down those 2 points for you. Look, if any boss gonna top a list for me, it better be fun.
If it's not fun, why bother?
And I think the gameplay is rather fun. Sure, it's not much to attack in Goht, you just roll into him. You barely use the dungeon item in here as you defrost him at the start and that's it. And I'll dive more into this too. Almost all Zelda bosses need to be stunned using the dungeon item you find in the respective dungeon. It's a staple for the series that creates a structured fight that makes sense as you build what you've already gained in that level. Majora's Mask very much didn't follow that trend as highlighted in this video. And as I struggle to say what's the best boss compared to what's the worst boss, I'm not sure that it was the best move. It's certainly debatable, unlike how we all agree that Call of Duty is a poisonous effect douchebag, but I'd say it's better to keep it structured, need to use the dungeon item for the boss fights. That's a side note though. Goht is still a fun fight. Goht and Link must chase him down in a donut-shaped run, which pretty much makes sense based on the dungeon's design. You must dodge all that he throws your way and slam into him, knocking him down and sending him running into a wall. It's kind of fun racing gameplay to defeat him. A very unique idea I find quite fun. And you know I must find it fun because I've shown this gameplay a weird amount on this channel. but also has some challenge to it. It isn't a fun pushover boss. The obstacles can be tricky between all the rocks he kicks up, stalactites fall onto you, and bombs he poops out. Plus, if you hit him or he gets a lead, he shoots electricity at you. So there's plenty of obstacles to dodge too. You can't just keep slamming into him. Which I like that in a boss. It's a fair challenge. I don't think Georg is fair. It seems way too easy for him to swallow you whole. And Goht isn't perfect either. The go and rolling game mechanic is a bit wonky. It isn't as smooth as it could be, but still smooth enough to be the best boss in the game. This was a unique way to answer the question of who is my favorite boss in The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. I've more talked about why the others weren't, and Goht was the one left standing. But sometimes that's how it goes. These bosses all have notable flaws versus high points. And that said though, Goht is a really fun fight. It's probably one of the more fun fights there is in Zelda games, which is saying a lot as they nail many of their bosses. I always have a fun time slamming into him, and I can say I'm happy to proclaim that Goht is my favorite boss in The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask.